More so than any other time in our modern history, this world changes and shifts on a dime. World conflict, mad men and women seeking to become the latest in lines of despots, economic disasters. And in the end, if we take a moment to look back on how it could all be avoided, we find ourselves at things such as leadership, facing challenges head on, stop seeking excuses, understand a chain of command, and dedication. In essence, whether you liked it or not, the military way of thinking. The new book is called Team of Teams, New Rules of Engagement for a Complex World. And making sense of this new world in a manner of thinking we can all and should all understand, David Silverman is one of the co-authors, along with retired Army General Stanley McChrystal. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me.
What exactly then is, let's start with the Team of Teams concept that you came up with the General?
I have been very fortunate to be on some incredible teams throughout my professional career. I was a Navy SEAL for 13 years, and we found ourselves in both Iraq, Afghanistan, and other parts of the world fighting our nation's wars and having incredible tactical success at the point of engagement. Yet collectively, the problems were getting much, much worse. And so we had to figure out a way to bring the different individual teams together to operate as one so that we could be effective in an environment that was constantly shifting and changing and was incredibly unpredictable.
It's got to be fair to say that when you tell people about doing things the military way, you will find some folks who will be very nervous because they will say, wait a minute, that's a little bit too tough for us here in the civilian world. And also you're talking about something that because of many issues we can't bring to business today. That's false, isn't it?
I believe it is false. We believe that our experience that we faced was really the same thing that a lot of companies and businesses and organizations are facing with today, which is the fact that the information age that has exploded out of the invention of the internet and the massive increases in technology has made everything much more complex than before. And based on that, the framework that you have to operate, we try to articulate based on our practical experiences in the book Team of Teams.
So what makes this different than other books? Because we have always heard about doing things the military way. So what sets this apart?
Well, really, this was a transformation that the special operations community had to make because the military way was not working. So the military way, which was really just an extension of the efficiency models of the 20th century, was woefully inadequate for an environment that was shifting and changing. And so we went through this transformation out of necessity because people were losing their lives. And while we were having individual successes, collectively the problem was getting worse. And that was an unacceptable outcome for us.
What?
And so based on that, we developed this framework where we really focus on creating shared consciousness and empowered execution, which is directly applicable to any organization, irrespective of what environment they're operating in.
When you see things happening in the civilian world, and for instance, unfortunately, we have to bring it down to the big news today, and that is what is happening with the Amtrak derailment in Philadelphia. People always talk about a lack of leadership, because if leadership had been there, had you made the right decisions, had you not look for excuses, things like this would not happen. Fair to say that every single day, with what your experiences have taught you, and when we see things like this, you, the General, your co-authors can say, we see the things that you're just not doing well enough. We can teach you something.
We believe that cross-lead, which is the framework that is captured by Team of Teams, can really contribute to help organizations. It's not going to solve every problem. In fact, what we believe is that you can no longer predict what success is going to look like. So what you got to be able to do is get your organization into a competitive fighting stance so that it can adjust and adapt based on the situations that dictate in the environment. So if you look at Amtrak as an example, what you have is a catastrophe. So it happened. Now the question is, how quickly can the different parts of the government, especially the first responders in the great state of Pennsylvania, come together to solve the problem? And more importantly, pull all the different pieces that need to get done to provide the care for the families that ultimately are needed to be successful in today's environment.
I've only got about 60 seconds left. You use words like tactical success, point of engagement, competitive fighting stance. Isn't it fair to say that in order to put all these to work, people have to stop being such a whiny nation at times because we're always looking for excuses? The military way is don't look for the excuses, find the solution, get it done, and if you have to sometimes look to somebody junior to do it or drop your ego back a little bit, do it.
That's right. If there was one lesson you'd want a leader to take away from this book, it's that you can't make every decision for your organization. You've got to put yourself down in the middle of your organization and just act like the heartbeat and just push information and learning across it. And then let your people make the decisions that are closest to the problem, because usually they're the best ones capable of resolving the issue.
There are books that are out before, and I've read a lot of them, but this one simply because it has General McChrystal in it, you, a serviceman, so many others who are involved in it. It speaks to the needs that we have here in the 21st century right now. The book, once again, is Team of Teams, New Rules for Engagement in a Complex World. David Silverman, fascinating book. Let's hope that people understand that you can take the military way of doing things, but you don't necessarily have to be in the military to do it. Great job, David. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And it is, once again, something that he points out in the book and that we have to continue to point out here. Stop looking for excuses, America. Get it done, and don't worry about your ego. Stay with us. The fastest 60 minutes in news continues.